Hello, I'm Ellen with Pure Energy and the Dance Bar. I'm sitting here with my friend Jaime Witts. And Jaime Witts dances at Ballet Austin. She's been there for
my 15th season in the company, and I was there 3 before that.
Which is amazing. And what's super exciting is an article came out recently in the January issue of Point magazine. And it was an interview with you. And the article was called Making It Against All Odds, and it talked about how perhaps regardless of what you have been told or what other people believe you should be doing, you can still go out there and do what you want to do and achieve it, which I think is a powerful message for everybody.
My dad would be really proud of the underdog story.
Yeah.
I always see myself as that anyway, which is... Some of my friends now are like, you're not an underdog anymore, but that's kind of how I feel, I think, from having those experiences as a 10-year-old kid being taken to New York and not really knowing what's going on, and someone's like, yeah, you're not really turned out enough, or you're like short and muscular, it's not really the look. But yeah, I've been lucky to kind of right place, right time, right people, blend of things, and I think my personality too is just kind of like keep telling me I can't and I'm going to. Yeah, which is helpful. But yeah, and I was able to find things I think that I really loved about dance and ballet that didn't matter. I love music and moving and sweating and jumping, that was nice because my teachers were like, well, you're good at jumping. I was like, yes, okay, I like doing that, and I knew my limitations. But it's helped me a lot, like being musical and, working on my arms, my port de bras, stuff like that, which to me, is something that's so beautiful to watch. And I worked on that a lot because I liked it. And I worked on the things I didn't like too, but it's nice to have those things that like you really connect to personally that you can still work on regardless of what anyone else tells you.
Do you think that when you were growing up, do you think that you had it in your mind that you wanted to dance professionally, or do you think it was more something that you did because it fed you and you enjoyed it and the artistic quality of dance really spoke to you?
I think, no, like from when I was 8,
you knew
this is what I was going to do. Yeah.
So, and the dance world can be very cruel. In general, people have their opinions about how you should be, how you should look, how you should move, things like that. But when people are telling you that basically you're not good enough, what do you think drove you to continue regardless?
I was lucky that my dad was a collegiate athlete, and so he knew about the kind of up and down upsets of that. And he always encouraged me as long as it was still something that I was enjoying. Mm-hmm. And there were plenty of really bad moments and tears along the way. And one of the things in the article that I talked about that was like major disappointment as a kid was the rest of my class got to go on point, except for me. And that was
traumatizing.
It was devastating. Like I can vividly remember what I was wearing when my dad picked me up, and I like just sobbing the car ride home and not really understanding why. And on the flip side, now that I've actually like been a teacher and I have that story, I have that experience, and I also now understand the like physiology of it, the biology of it. Like I wasn't ready. My body was not ready. My ankles were weak. It's funny. I think my next career I'm going to be a midwife, and I had like one of my feet was stuck and pronated. Okay. And so, like I could help that in the womb, but that was really like one of the things that that I needed to fix and I needed to work on. And my studio director's husband was actually a doctor. And so that was one of the reasons why I was like, no, this is not safe for you right now. Mm-hmm. And as an adult now, I can process that. And as a teacher, like I understand that and I can see that. And those are such hard conversations to have. But I'm glad now, like I didn't have any catastrophic injuries like that. And but that like devastation of being told, like, oh no, sorry, you can't do this. And it was a year of working, and I don't know how many times I scrunched the encyclopedia on a towel with my feet, just to like work on ankle strength and TheraBands, and there were some tangible things then that I could work towards.
But you were given stuff to work on.
Exactly.
And you worked on it, where a lot of people would give up or say, I'll do it later, or I'll do it tomorrow. But you wanted it badly enough that you continued to work on it.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to dance on point. I want it to be, now I really love doing contemporary work, but at the time, a lot of my teachers were trained in overseas in Ukraine, and that was the ultimate, like the ballerina on point, like the Snow Queen, the Sugar Plum Fairy, like that was something that I wanted to have for myself, regardless of whether I was actually going to get to do it as a career. But that was like a mini goal along the way.
What advice would you have for someone in the same position where their body just isn't there, but it's in their heart and they want to do it? What would your advice be?
Ask yourself, I guess, what's fulfilling for you about it. Regardless of what anybody else says or what the outcome is going to be. Like, if working with the music if you really feel that and you're really attached to like how the music feels through your body, or how you can move your arms or your head, or the physicality of it, and like the sweat and the working your muscles that way, that's the thing you hold on to, and that's the thing that's the reason you do it for you. You don't have to do it for anybody else. And I feel like a lot of art is like this, but dance especially. It's a really big time commitment. It's your brain, it's mental, it's emotional, it's especially physical. And not everything's always going to be perfect, Nobody's going to be perfect. I'm sure Sylvie Guillaume probably has things that she wants to work on. And that's one of those things that like you're always going to strive, even if you're not going to achieve the professional career or this or that. But if you can find something like that you connect to in your heart that's really fulfilling, then you don't have to, it doesn't matter what anybody else says. You have your reason to do it for you.
Yeah. Even if you know that it's something you want and you are driven by that passion, there has to be those days where you just don't and you feel like you can't. What do you feel gets you through that, or do you take the time to take a break, or do you push through anyway, or what do you feel has worked for you when you're in that place?
I think both. I mean, sometimes taking a break is really hard for me, just personality, who I am, but I mean, that's actually something I'm dealing with right now, is that my body is not really working for me and things are getting worse, and it's like, do I keep pushing? Which of course I want to keep pushing and I want to be on stage, but that's not the best thing for me right now. So sometimes stepping back is the thing to do, and sometimes when you step back and you can actually sit and you watch other people and she has really got this idea of how she uses her feet down, and you can see that, and then you can process that and think about that for yourself. So you can find things that way, or you might find yourself, okay, I need to step back, but I can participate in a different way. Like I can pop in and help a class, or watch a younger kids class and see what they're working on, or if I can help. And sometimes it's really hard because I never wanted it to feel like just a job. It's always had this like deeper meaning, deeper thing, but there are days in all aspects of everybody's life that you just have to do it. You just go through, keep going, keep breathing, and eventually you'll come out on the other side.
What do you think about having a job that you're so emotionally and passionately connected to? Is that something that you enjoy? Do you sometimes wish you could disconnect from everything?
Yeah, all of those things, yes. I mean, it's so emotional, the ups and downs of life. we're like on a 5 to 6 week cycle. Every 5 or 6 weeks, there's a new cast list. There might be a new choreographer. You might have to audition, and that's stressful. And this is what I want. This is what I want to do. It's not happened again. Or oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this. I never thought that would be possible. That wasn't even on my radar. So the emotional roller coaster is really hard. But I also couldn't see myself just doing a job because, I don't know, I feel like the passion has been so fulfilling in so many other aspects of my life that even though it's hard and sucks sometimes, I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Do you feel overall fortunate that you do get to apply your passion to what you do all day long?
Definitely. Yeah. And I think that's something that, towards the end of my career now. So looking to the future of like, what is the next step? And how am I ever going to actually have a job that might feel like this? And there's nothing like performing. Performing is performing. I'm sure probably a surgeon's like, well, there's nothing like surgery, so, that kind of thing. I hope that I can find the same passion for my next career.
Talk a little bit about auditioning, because that's something that we talk a lot about with our kids, and you have to do it, and the more you do it, the better you get, and all this stuff. But, for myself, even when I want to do performances, I still have to audition, and I never have felt like just the emotional roller coaster of auditioning has ever gone away.
Yeah.
Do you feel when you audition that it's the same every time? Do you feel like you've gotten better over time? Do you feel like it's not as emotional, anything like that? Like, what advice do you have as you continue to audition?
I think it kind of depends on what you're auditioning for. Every job interview is an audition, really. If you think about it, college interviews, all of that. For me, things like that I didn't really realize about myself when in my younger days, like I can pick up not necessarily choreography quickly, but style. And I was fortunate enough in the beginning of my career, we had a show called New American Talent Dance. So there were new choreographers coming in the room, a lot of whom were still dancing. That's how I learned how to dance. A lot of my teachers were still actively dancing or had most recently stopped dancing. So I never made that connection that like that's how I learn, is I watched them do things and tried to imitate them. And so when choreographer comes in the studio and you notice, I'm noticing without knowing I'm noticing the way they might move their back with their legs, or that they're like low and over, contracted, or they're low but they're up still, or they hold their body classically, or things like that eventually, in conferences with the directors, they're like, that this is what you do, like we see this. And it's not that I know all the steps right away, but that aspect of like being able to grasp the style. Now that I kind of know that, I'm like, oh, I'm a little more aware of that. So now I can look at that when I'm auditioning. And for me, having a focus like that it doesn't take the pressure away, but it helps me in the moment not be so like freaked out and in my head. And I think for students, some of like the summer audition process, for some kids, it's like such a different class than they're used to taking, or there's so many more kids, and so I think what I have tried to tell like my students in the past is to start to really listen and think, okay, the teacher keeps correcting the arms or talking about, I'm obsessed with port bras, so it's about the arms for me, but keeps correcting like bigger plie or more, higher legs, or I'm more interested in placement. And there are the subtle things like that each teacher has their own, like I'm about arms and port bra and coordination. And so I talk a lot about that when I'm teaching. So if as a student in, that time when you're just worried about like the girl over there stretching and, all of that kind of stuff that goes along with it, if you can start to hone into like, oh, okay, well, the musicality is really important to this teacher. So I'm going to focus on trying to pick up the musicality, and that's going to be my focus for this class. And then you might not make the audition, you might not get noticed, but then you did your best in that class to focus on what that teacher was focusing on, and you're going to learn that and take that to the next audition. Mm-hmm. So I think that, just kind of that awareness is helpful.
That's interesting. I've never thought of it that way. I like it, but I do notice with dance, and I tell my students too, if you're working on the feet today, work on the feet. You're working on the arms today, work on the arms. And if you do have one focus, then that improves, and you can feel like you've accomplished.
Yeah, definitely.
Succeeded at something versus just been kind of a mess at everything.
Exactly. Well, and then with dance, there's too many things to think about. I mean, so many things you need to think about every time, that especially for while you're training and, in your home studio, your home environment, my teacher has always been talking to me about this. So this semester, all I'm going to think about is that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that will definitely help improve. And at least your teacher can see that you're working on that.
This is a little off topic, but I do want to talk about it. You were talking about port de bras. Oh, yeah. And I've seen you perform numerous times for years, 15 years I've watched you as a performer. And my personal opinion watching you and all the other dancers is that your stage presence is so alive. It's so big. It's so there. And a lot of it is because your port de bras and your upper body are so expressive, and you really do put a lot of movement into that. What do you think? Like, do you recall a time, in your training where you realized, like, this is my thing and this is what I feel good about? And do you realize how it affects your performance?
Back to my dad. He always says he can pick me out, like, no matter where he is in the house or what I'm doing, swan leg, fifth girl on the stage left line, like, he knows who I am by my hands. I think that really it goes back to being told that I didn't have these other things. Okay. But that was something that it didn't matter. Like, that it didn't matter that I wasn't turned out enough or this or that. Like, it was there. It's your arms, it's your port de bras. It can you can always improve it, you can always work on it, and it can say a lot. And my teachers, I think I was fortunate, just the Vaganova style. I spent, a lot of time at the bar, as a young student, and just working on all of those coordinations. And so I think working on it from such a young age really helped, because I think about it, I think about the coordination in rehearsal, but I don't ever think about it while I'm on stage. So it's like second nature. Yeah. And then when I'm on stage, I feel like I can think about all the other things. And, I never really thought the idea of being a ballerina versus, now my whole beginning of my career, contemporary movement was my body actually is good at this because of how I'm built. Yes. So it wasn't such a liability as it was in ballet. I could embrace that more. And now that I have more experience in both of those ways, I've been fortunate to get to make characters. And for me, the upper body and your arms and your hands, and if I'm looking at you like this or if I'm looking at you like this, that says a lot. Just those subtle differences. And so I think that fortunately, making characters is it's a privilege to do that, to get to do that on stage. But I've been able to incorporate all of those kind of those things about arms and port de bras, and even in contemporary, characters and things like that.
Yeah. And I think that's amazing because, in dance, we do think about the legs and the feet, and especially in competition style, how far is your leg go? How far can you get back here and everything like this. But in we tell our classes, unfortunately, especially if your audience is, uneducated in dance, they really are mostly watching the upper body, because that's how you are actually telling the story. And that's how people can relate to you.
Right.
What is the story that you're telling? So, and I can tell from watching you as a performer that's really what has made you so interesting and amazing as a performer, is that you just give so much more expressively because of that.
Yeah, I do think that it helps a lot to tell the story.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, and it makes you more human, I think.
Relatable.
It's not like a stiffness or a, which there's the place to be completely classical, but those, you can show a lot of vulnerability with that, which is scary to do in front of a lot of people, but
it's scary to do, but like you said, it being vulnerable is what's relatable. And sometimes we forget. We, as performers, as dancers, we feel so much emotion when we're performing, but you forget sometimes that you're sharing that with somebody else.
Right.
And that's what they're enjoying about your performance, is what they're feeling. It's not necessarily what they're seeing, it's how you made them feel after the performance.
Yeah. And did you actually tell the story?
Did you tell the story? Yeah. Off topic, but thanks for talking about that. So, what if somebody knows that this is what they want to do, and maybe it's not classical, maybe it's more contemporary, maybe it's another style completely, what would be your 3, biggest points of advice?
Seek out as much knowledge about it as you can. There was no YouTube when I was dancing. Now you can YouTube anything. Like any choreographer, any kind of dance, any team routine, you can find it out there. There's plenty of books, resources online, so soak up as much knowledge as you can. And then I think find what's fulfilling for you about it, so that you have that to hold on to no matter what else is going on. And then a lot of it is just hard work. You just have to put in the time and the hours, and it's not any kind of dance discipline. It's not like learning. It's not like I memorized my times tables, I got it. It takes years to develop the muscle memory and the flexibility and the placement and all of those things. So it has to be like a long-term goal, but with like those things we're talking about, like I'm going to focus on my feet. Maybe it's in this class, maybe it's for this semester. Those breaking it down into those smaller, more tangible goals is also really helpful and important. And enjoy it. It's whether you're just dancing now, as a young kid, and you might keep going, you might not. If you don't enjoy it, don't go. And if you enjoy it, there should be nothing that holds you back from doing it. Nothing that anybody says, there is a place for you. Yeah, and you should just go for it. If it makes you happy, there's no reason not to.
What would your advice be if someone has all that and they love to dance and it's fulfilling for them, but they don't want to pursue it as a career? Do you feel like there's still a place for them in
Absolutely, dance? Yeah. Think of all of the time and the work and the education you've put in. Besides a lot of arts organizations, nonprofit situations, you can market, you can usher, you can volunteer, you can, find a space that if you want to keep dancing, you can keep dancing. It's not, as an adult, there are so many opportunities to put that into your life. Plus, you are the most educated audience member now. So if you have kids, if you go volunteer at a school, be a docent for a local company, community, seek out the arts, because dance gives you an appreciation for a lot more than just dance, because it's so connected, to music and visual arts, like scenic things. We were talking the other day about Ballet Russe. Ballet Russe, sure, 1940s, what's going on, but you have Chagall and Picasso, doing backdrops, and Chanel making costumes, and like, there's so much of the art world blended into dance that you can absolutely find an avenue.
Yeah. Sometimes people think it's just dance.
Right.
You're just dancing. What is the point and what is the purpose? And for me, I've done a lot of research, and I teach, and I own a studio, and I'm trying to tell everybody what the benefits are of dancing. But what about being a dancer and taking a dance class actually applies to other areas in your life? So how can you take training as a dancer, and how can it benefit you in a different career?
That's what I'm looking at right now, is how everything that I know, like, how am I going to be able to apply that after? And it's really important to kind of break down those things, especially if this is not going to be your career. So yeah, like, why'd you spend all that time doing that thing, Besides the art appreciation aspect of it, think about, time management, exercise, like mind-body connection is huge for the rest of your life. You're going to have good posture and not so many back problems as an adult, but those things about like how you manage your time for your priorities. This is important to you, and you've been able to prioritize that and prioritize yourself in your life because this is what you want to do. So that, I think that's huge, especially today when, there's 101 things you can fear missing out on. Like, how are you going to prioritize what's important to you and what you want to do? And I think being a dance student really teaches you that.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks for chatting with me. Yeah. So the article again is in Point Magazine. It's in the January of, oh my God. So the article again is in Point Magazine. It's in the January edition, and it's called "Making It Against All Odds" with Jaime Lynn Witts. And thanks for chatting with us today.
Thank you.